Hello, and welcome to the Ask Ezra podcast, real people with intimacy challenges and real intimacy coaching. I'm Sir Ezra Algos, intimacy coach at askezra.info. If this is your first episode, you might be asking yourself, what is intimacy coaching? One definition is that an intimacy coach helps people feel safer, closer, and more connected to their lovers, friends, and even themselves. It is my goal to help people become closer to the people that they care about. So join me for this session already in progress.
I know I personally see myself struggling to be like a better sub sometimes. I don't know, I try to take a little bit too much control when I should be able to let go of that control.
So I think that should is a very dangerous word. Oftentimes we put like restrictions on ourselves or expectations on ourselves, which may not even be our partner's expectations, right? And not that we're necessarily bound to those partner's expectations either. How is the level of control that you are able to give up not satisfying to you? Or is it mostly about your partner?
It's not satisfying to me. I don't know, I just have like a lot of mental blocks on because I've never in most of my life not been able to give control to anybody. So like I stop a lot, like I stop things from happening a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, almost like a compulsion to interrupt to protect yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You know, and I think what you're describing is probably a defense mechanism of like, I'm not safe. I need to get out of this situation that's not safe. So, and I think that's valuable. That's first, I want to say that like, thank goodness you had that, right? Because it probably kept you from some unsafe situations in the past.
It has definitely saved me a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we don't like resent that part of you. Like that part of you is good and that part of you served you, but it sounds like that part's like interrupting when we'd rather it not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, you know, acknowledging that that's something that happens to you is going to, you know, hopefully is going to help a little bit and just be like, oh, hey, that's happening again. If you know yourself to be safe, then you can have like a script that you can sort of give yourself like, oh, hey, I'm trying to weasel my way out of this, but I know that this is what I want to do. You know, when I try to, you have like a trigger where you're like, okay, that's now I'm feeling that. Now this is what I say. And sometimes acknowledging those feelings can sort of take some power away from them. Like maybe you could just be like, I'm feeling wishy-washy. And now there's like less pressure to act on them because you've acknowledged them. I have these feelings, I'm feeling wishy-washy. Like now you don't necessarily need to like run away or stop what's happening because you've said it. Also, it can inform your partner who might otherwise like take it personally or misinterpret your actions. So, but I definitely have that conversation ahead of time. So you'd be like, when I say I'm feeling wishy-washy or whatever works for you, then they know that you've got that thing happening. The other thing I would say is that it sounds like you're going into your head. Is that accurate? You're sort of stuck in your head a little bit when that happens.
That's pretty accurate.
And that's super common. A lot of people do that. I even as a, you know, I'm an educator and I live in a 24/7 dynamic and I still do that. So it happens. And there's tricks you can do to like get back in your body. There's a number of them. So just kind of take what works for you. One is to like focus on your breathing. I mean, that's why the people who do like meditation and stuff, they're always like, focus on your breathing. Because when you watch your body, you're focusing on your body. So that's what you can do is you can say like, how am I breathing right now? Or consciously make a specific kind of breath that might calm you if you're feeling agitated or whatever, right? Another thing that you can do is to focus on your senses. What am I seeing right now? What am I smelling right now? What am I hearing right now? And those are going to bring you into your body because you're using your body. Essentially, you're kind of dissociating a little bit. And we all do this. But when you get stuck in your head, you're kind of like forgetting your body. How is it feeling right now? How is it, you know, is the air warm? Is the air cool? All of those things are, you know, helpful for getting back into our body.
All right. I've never really tried the breathing thing before. I normally just like, I don't know, I forget to completely breathe at all sometimes. Like I just hold my breath.
Yeah. Which can be hot but also we need to breathe to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing. So like I used to have like negative thought cycles. I would sort of be like
Mhm.
beating myself up. And I found something that was really helpful was carrying a rubber band on my wrist. And I would snap the rubber band, and that little smack brought me back into my body. It's like we're at a buffet and
Mhm.
we're thinking about taxes. Like we're at a buffet. Like there's this whole host of wonderful things in front of us, right? You got a body, and your body's like, there are so many wonderful things, especially if you're in play. Like you're probably pushing some really fun buttons, right? And so why would
Yeah.
we think about taxes now? You know,
Yeah.
why would we think about our grocery list now?
Sometimes I think of like the darndest things to try to, I don't know why I try to get my mind off of what's happening sometimes, even like, it may be just because I'm a little overwhelmed or something like that, but I never like stay completely in the moment, even though I know I should be like right there.
Yeah, because where else would you want to be, right?
I don't know. I want to be right there, but my brain is like, no, you didn't do XYZ at this time today.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also, I mean, think of it like a muscle, Charlie. You know, the more that you exercise that, like stepping into your body, the more it's gonna be something that you can do quickly and easily. So
Okay.
yeah, so you can practice it anytime you want. You can find yourself daydreaming or anytime you can be cooking spaghetti and thinking about the grocery list, right? And say, hey, wait a minute, like cooking spaghetti can be a pleasurable experience. There's an aroma, there's the heat, there's the sound, right? And just kind of get into those feelings.
Yeah.
I could sexualize anything. I sexualize my
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I
You can
sexualize my when I pay my
sexualize
bills, I
anything.
sexualize it. I'm like, yeah, you love that, don't you, bank? Take my money. If I have to do it,
I
it
was
might
gonna
as well
say I
be fun.
sexualize. You might as well. I was gonna say it's almost like I sexualize my job, but I don't know if you realize I work in an adult store, so that's just all sexual all the time.
Yeah, well, I did see that. Yeah, but there's you could definitely sexualize, extra sexualize, like this, like sexualize inventory, which I know is always the most dull job.
No, actually, we try to make the whole like putting away inventory as fun as possible. We make fun of things as they come out of the box, even if they're like serious items. We still try to make like some sort of fun out of it.
Here you go. It sounds like a good place to work. Hey, everybody, it's Ezra. And wow, isn't that exciting? Wouldn't you like to be the next guest on our show? Well, you can. Just email askezra8@gmail.com. And hey, if being on the show is too much and you'd just like to get some private intimacy coaching, that's available too. Now back to our show. So tell me, how long have you been in your current relationship?
About a year and a half ish.
And would you describe that as like a dom sub or master slave or boyfriend girlfriend or some combination?
Definitely not boyfriend girlfriend, more master slave kind of situation. Because I don't cook for him, but I clean his house every time I come over. I just take care of like little things around the house. And even like besides for sexual stuff, I'd give him little mini massages and take care of his feet and all that other stuff. So I would definitely probably say like a master slave kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I usually think what I'm hearing is that there's like service. There's a lot of service involved. And I hear you. And I think I'm not sure that service makes master slave. Like when I think of master slave, I think of total power exchange. Like that person gets to decide what the power situation is. And you sort of give up control. Does that sound accurate to you?
That kind of, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and I don't want to say just because there's service, it's not master slave. It just, I know there are some dom sub relationships that can be really heavy in service too. So I wanted to make sure. Besides this sort of presence issue that you described, is everything really, doing really good, or were there other concerns that you might have, like with a dynamic specifically?
I don't want to talk on him because obviously I don't know what like goes on in his head all the time. But I know I have a slight communication issue as well. Sometimes I don't 100% communicate how exactly I'm feeling about a situation. Even if I'm a little bit uncomfortable about it, I don't really like throw it out there that I'm uncomfortable about it.
Mm-hmm. So you're like holding things back.
I hold back just a little.
Yeah. And what happens after that happens when you hold that back? Do you forget about it? Do you blow up later? What happens?
Unfortunately, I do blow up a little bit later. So like after I already get home from his house, I kind of like text him upset. And then like I don't mean to make it feel like his fault, but he kind of feels like it's his fault that like I have a little bit of communication issue. And I try to reassure him that it's not his fault, but it kind of seems to fall that way sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you. That can be really challenging. I think it's tough because we aren't really taught to communicate. Most people just don't ever get the right
Yeah.
instruction on how to communicate. So that's really tough. What are the things that you hold back about? Is there a theme to it? Is it?
I don't think there's really ever like an actual theme to it. It's never one specific thing. Sometimes it could just be something that happens when I first get to his house. And then I just feel kind of like uncomfortable. And sometimes it is just something that I do or something that I said that kind of just like sets the tone for the entire night, or
Mm,
something that he had said that sets in the entire tone. Or sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes I come home from work just upset, but I don't even communicate that to him until like halfway through the night. And then I just get upset out of literally nowhere.
yeah. And there's also another thing that I lament about our culture is that there isn't really a culture of being able to like permission to offload. So if you come home stressed out,
Yeah.
there isn't really like a cultural precedent to be like, hey, I need to offload. Are you in a position to are you positioned to
Yeah.
receive that? And I think that's something we can do. You can say, hey, I had a really stressful day. I'd love to talk about it. Is that something that you have energy to hear today? Right? Because I think
Yeah.
some people don't hold back and they go, let me tell you about Becky. She was such a bitch today, you know? And if that person's
Yeah.
like on the edge, if that person is like holding back themselves, then that makes a really tough situation. So,
Thankfully, there's a couple times where he like sees that I'm upset and he like gets me, like keeps trying to push me to talk because he sees that I'm not going to let it go.
mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really want to hear about it, like me explode later. He wants me to like get it out right then and there, like the moment I walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'll see it, I'll just be wearing it straight on my face that I'm
Yeah.
upset about something.
And that can be like a romantic image that like, oh, he's psychic, he pulled it out of me. But I think we can do better, Charlie. I think you can get ahead of it. Let's have two different scenarios, right? One scenario is he is well rested, he is ready to hear what you need to say, right? So you say, hey,
Mhm.
can I offload? I'm feeling stressed out about what happened at work and I'd love to talk about it so that we can have a nice evening and I don't have to keep thinking about it, right? And then it's his job to hear you, and you can set expectations in the conversation and say, hey, I don't want solutions, I just want to be heard. Or you
Yeah.
can say, this is something I need to fix, and if you see a solution, I want to hear it. Right? Two different ways to hear a conversation. And I think that first one is really tough for men a lot of times because we are fixers, right? We're supposed to fix the plumbing, we're supposed to fix the woodwork, right? And so you come to
Mhm.
problems, oh, well, you can do this. But a lot of times, women don't want to hear that. And so set that expectation early. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is he has had a hard day at work and he doesn't want to talk about it. But you also have had that hard time at work and you want to come home and you want to talk about it. So you say, hey, I had a really tough time. I'd love to talk about it so I can just get it past and forget about it. And then he might say, I'm not really in a place to hear you right now. I don't have the energy to hear about what happened at work. It's then your job to figure out, how do I offload? Do you need to take a walk? Can you call a friend? Sometimes that's, can I call a therapist, whatever, but you can't demand necessarily a specific attitude from your partner at a specific time. So that's how you can deal with like specifically like offloading. Now, little things, I think that it can feel like a favor to not share your feelings. And it's not. It might be to somebody who doesn't care about you, but I'm going to go out on a limb here, Charlie, and say your Dom probably really cares about you. And so
Yeah.
he wants to know how you feel. And you're not alone. I think a lot, especially a lot of submissives and also a lot of people socialized as women are taught to feel that their feelings are not important. But if anybody cares, it's him. So it can be challenging to share your feelings. But again, it's a muscle. So the more we practice it, the easier it's going to be for you to do those things. Let's do a little bit of role play. Are you open to some role play, Charlie?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do something that pisses you off a little bit, and then you're going to tell me. What I want you to do is focus on being kind. Don't be apologetic, but be kind. And the way to think about this is sharing a boundary with somebody, sharing like a limit with somebody is an act of love because you are committed to that relationship. You let it slide with strangers. Somebody says something to you on the bus, maybe you let it slide because you don't want to have a relationship with that person, but you want to have a relationship with your master here. You should share those feelings so that they can adjust, right? Or you can find a way to adjust. So it is an act of love. So I want to reframe it. It can feel harsh, especially when it's too late when we share boundaries, right? Like that thing you did last Tuesday really pissed me off. That can feel really harsh. But to say, hey, I really am not interested in being touched like that right now. That's an act of kindness. That's an act of love. And so I want you to remember that.
Okay.
So how about I give you the wrong name?
Okay.
It's really nice to see you today, Chucky.
Oh no. I would really appreciate it if you didn't call me that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got you by the wrong name. What should I call you?
I would prefer you to call me Charlie.
I'd be happy to call you Charlie. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah. And I mean, that was uncomfortable, right?
That was a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That means it was working. But it's also like super low stakes. Like, our friendship's not on the line. That you're not going to offend me by correcting me because I literally asked you to do it. By introducing this challenging activity and in a way that really has like very low stakes, like we're playing poker for pennies here, it sort of takes the steam out of it. It takes the scariness out of it a little bit. And you can keep doing that. And I would encourage you to do that with your partner. And we can keep doing it too. And if we do it 5 times, by the 5th time, it will be less irritating than the first time. Charlie, I've made some cockroach and hummus crackers. Would you like one?
No, thank you.
Great. Awesome.
No.
Setting a boundary.
No, thank you.
You don't want my disgusting crackers. Oh, that one's going to be hard to top.
That one's going to be pretty hard to top.
Yes.
That's pretty gross.
Charlie, can I borrow $1,000?
I don't have that kind of money in the bank, so I'm going to have to pass on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. I saw you hesitated there.
I'm such a yes person, which is also another problem that I say yes to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I don't say no to a lot of people. So that's a little bit of a problem. I would have been like, you want to take that in payments? How about like $5 a day or something like that?
We'll talk about this offline. I'm just kidding. Hey, everybody. It's Ezra. Do some of these challenges sound like some of the things you've been dealing with? Maybe your challenges are very different, but you just love to have somebody to work on them with. Well, you're not alone on your journey. I'm here to help. So email askezra8@gmail.com or visit us at askezra.info, and maybe we can set up a session where we just focus on you. All right, back to the last component of our show. Okay, so let's practice no. So that's boundary setting and saying no are like really close. They're sister issues. So here, let me run you through a scenario. You need to say no, and you don't.
Okay.
With your dom, with your master, and then you end up in a situation where you're doing something that you didn't want to do. They can tell you didn't want to do it, and you are stuck. They're not enjoying themselves. You're not enjoying yourself. He might even feel upset with you for not getting your honesty, because that's what you need. You need informed consent, enthusiastic consent, all of that to do kinky stuff, right? We don't get to just fall into it. We need to talk about it because it's scary stuff.
Yeah.
So let's practice saying no. Yeah. And again, I want you to reframe no. No is not a cruelty. No, when you need to say it is a kindness. And really
Okay.
your silence is the cruelty,
Yeah.
right? Not that I'm putting you down, but I'm just saying, like, if you want to be good to him, then be honest even when it's something negative.
Okay.
Let's set this up. I'm going to ask you some things, and I want you to just say no, because I hear a lot
Okay.
of I don't have the money in the bank, or thank you for offering, but just say no and sit with that. Like, let it be uncomfortable.
Okay.
I know it already sucks, right? But that's how you know it's working. It's like the
Yeah.
hydrogen peroxide. It stings, it's working. Charlie, would you like to produce this show for me?
No, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, one more. Don't even say thank you.
Oh,
Do it. Just
okay.
do it. Just say no.
Okay.
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 Charlie, would you fly out to me and drive me around for the weekend?
No.
How did that feel?
I wanted to say yes.
But it's
I wanted
unreasonable.
to say
No, it's unreasonable,
it
right? It
is,
costs too much and you got stuff to
especially,
do.
and I've never been to LA, so I wouldn't
Ah,
even know where I'm going.
you'd be a terrible chauffeur.
Yeah.
I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the
Yeah.
sentiment, but no, it'd be unreasonable. And if you said yes, then now it sets this precedent for all kinds of disappointment because it's a commitment you can't keep, right?
Yeah.
So you're being kind to me by saying no. I've got another one for you that's titillating. Charlie, masturbate for me on camera.
No.
That one was easier.
That one was a lot easier.
Yeah, but that, again, unreasonable request. So somebody's going to clip that out. Somebody's,
Oh, great.
it's going to be
Great.
the 1 second I'm famous for, right? So that's great, and you can practice that with your partner, and again, low stakes. Like don't make it something real. Get out the Play-Doh and have him ask you to eat the Play-Doh. And you shouldn't eat Play-Doh, so
Yeah, let's not eat Play-Doh,
yeah,
even if
but
it says non-toxic.
it's a good opportunity to like practice, right? You can do
Yeah.
that with things that are not real. And so then when it comes time to something that's real and something that's kind of intense, it's a lot less intense because you've practiced. And if there are things that are not
Okay.
just no, you can practice by actually writing out how you'd like to respond. An example might be like an escalation. Like this is something that a lot of people have trouble with where you're making out and it moves to fondling, and maybe it's one kind of fondling versus another, and you're like, you know what, I'd rather just stay here. So how do you say that in a way that is not, hey, don't touch me at all? It's like, I'd rather you touch me this way, right? And so you can write that out. If there's like a recurring situation where you keep finding yourself, then it's going to happen again. And you can write it out so that you don't have to think about what the words are that you want to
Yeah.
use in the moment. You've already got
Right.
them written down. And I'm not saying
Okay.
like go grab the paper, right? But once you think about what you'd like to say, then it's a lot easier to say that. Like I had a friend who would
Yeah.
make jokes, and they're jokes that made me feel gross. I didn't like it. And if I was to say stop, don't, then he just didn't get the message. And eventually I
Right.
said, I appreciate that this is funny to you, but I want you to know that it's not funny to me and it only makes me uncomfortable. And once I said that, they got it. But I didn't
Yeah.
have to think about it in the moment because I knew he was going to keep doing it. So I came back and I figured out what I was going to say. And then when the time came, I was waiting for it. I knew it was going to happen. And I said, hey, stop.
That's not.
Yeah. And I did it because I want to keep the relationship, because I do
Yeah.
value his friendship. I could have let it slide and maybe just never talk to him again. And that would have been worse, right? Because I do like him as a friend and I want to keep him around. So sharing my feelings is a kindness.
Yeah. I know I've had to do that with like coworkers in the past, not with my current job, with at least my older job. I've had to I've done it with customers before. I've been like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that joke you just made. That made me extremely uncomfortable. So I've had to do that in the past, and I've been able to stop people in the past, but I don't know. I just don't, I guess to him, I don't want to be like a letdown, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do hear you. So I identify as a master, right? I identify as an owner. And so I see myself in probably a similar relationship to what you have with your partner. And consistently in my dynamics, I make sure to let that person know that their opinions are valuable, even if I don't like them. They're still valuable. They're still
Yeah.
really, I would rather hear an opinion I don't want than not hear it, because it doesn't make it not there. It just makes me
Yeah.
ignorant. It just makes me unable to respond and adapt. And it's especially, submissive women. Again, it's a cultural issue where we feel like our opinions aren't valued, right? And they really are valued. And
Yeah.
so I have all my partners practice saying no, practice sharing opinions. There's the I feel game. That one's interesting. And you're only allowed to respond with I feel statements.
No. Okay.
So, and they don't have to be just negative. They can be positive too. They're only, what you say is you reference a stimulus, and without passing judgment on that stimulus, you just say how it makes you feel.
Okay.
So, Charlie, when you share your intimate challenges with me, I feel honored that you trust me. And then you can respond, but only in a when you, I feel.
Okay. When you say you trust me, I feel validated in my opinions and statements.
And when you say you feel validated, I feel like I'm doing my job. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But it's good practice. And again, it's a muscle. You can do that with your partner. And it's very challenging to not use language like, Charlie, you made me feel this way, right? That's accusatory. Or I hate when you, or anything like that. They're really challenging. So instead, let's say what I want to say is like, I hate when you don't share your feelings, right? Maybe that's what I wanted to say. So a good alternative is to say, Charlie, when you don't share your feelings, I feel frustrated, right? So it's something you're doing. That's not debatable. You've done the thing, but I'm not accusing you of doing it for a specific reason or making you feel bad because of it. I'm just saying this is the effect that action has on me. And I'm not asking you to change me. I'm just saying, hey, this is the actual result. And those are much easier to respond to than like, Charlie, you're a jerk for not sharing your feelings. Like that's hard to respond to, right? You just go into defense mode. But the I statements keep us open. That's a game that I would recommend you try with your partner. But of course, it's all up to you.
No, that sounds like a good one to try out with him.
Fantastic.
Actually.
And it's so validating. You sit down and go, wow, I feel so valid.
Yeah. I also want to try to make his feelings feel valid too, because I feel like sometimes when I respond to him, I don't want to make him feel invalid, but I'm sure I've said a few things that have made the way he feels a little invalid. And I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Well, and then there's like, I want to talk about the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, I see you feeling a way. Empathy is, I feel the way you feel. And we shouldn't fake empathy, but empathy is like 10 times better than sympathy. And so when you feel it, you should share it. Let's say your partner says, Charlie, when you don't share your feelings, I feel frustrated. You say, I also feel frustrated. And you just validated his feelings. I see that you feel frustrated and I also feel frustrated. I'd like to be able to share my feelings better. I'm working on it. And that's how you validate somebody. So again, it's a muscle. I'm working on it. That's definitely a growing edge for me is the empathy muscle and making sure I share that with people. Charlie, I share your frustration. Communication is tough and I'm still constantly working on it. So I share your frustration.
And I share your frustration.
Thank you. Now I feel validated. Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends on social media. If you would like to review this episode, please do so at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support the episode, go to patreon.com/AskEzra, and you can sign up for our mailing list at askezra8@gmail.com. Lastly, if you'd like to find out if intimacy coaching is right for you, visit askezra.info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in next time.